After a classroom training, I ask my students to fill out a feedback form, but for my online training, I have to collect feedback on my website. So, how can I store the feedback as a document? In this video, you learn how to convert the collected input to a nice PDF in Python. For this tutorial, I'm going to simplify the feedback form a bit. This is the form I'm going to create. As you can see, it will demonstrate some features like multiline, multiple elements on a single line, graphical elements, and typography. For this, I will use a library called fpdf. I'll put a link to it in the description. I start by creating a virtual environment. I activate it and install fpdf. Let's see if that works. I create a new Python script. And I create a test document. PDFs created with fpdf need a page to work with. I set the font. There are more than one way to write text on the PDF, and one is to use cells. I add a single line cell to the page. The cell contains a header for the document. Now I output the PDF. I run the code. Let me open the generated PDF. Okay, that works. Now I want to add more elements to the page. But the problem is that the cursor is still at this vertical position. I will need to progress it here by calling the ln function. Let me show you. In the documentation, I could not find what this value exactly means, and with printable documents, it can be quite tricky to get it right. I had to experiment a bit with the value, and the unit 10 seemed to be right. Let me demonstrate that by adding the course name in bold. I test the program. Look at the line space between the text lines. As I said, just test until you are happy with the result. By the way, if you want to progress to the next line with the exact height of the cell, you can omit the units. I import datetime and execute the code. Looking good. For the next line, I do want more line space, so I choose 10 units again. So far, so good. Now it's time for the feedback data. In this tutorial, I will focus on the PDF creation, so I will exclude the data collection process. Instead, the input will be defined as variables in the script. I am now ready to create the radio buttons. There are, of course, more than one way to achieve this, and I chose to draw them with circles. To find the current vertical position of the document, I need to use the getY function. Let me show you. I progress to the next line and calculate the Y position. And draw two outer circles. Let me show you what that looks like. That's about right. To put text next to the radio buttons, I have to move the cursor a few cell units to the right, like this. And I do that again for the second radio button. I execute the code. And now I can draw an inner circle based on user data. I execute the code. That works. Let me change the recommendation to no. I execute the code. And that works. I'll change it back to yes. This is starting to look like something. Now I will add a multi-line cell for the text answer. I move the cursor, create a single line cell for the header text, and add a multi-line cell for the answer. What does that look like? Very good. I proceed to the next elements. This will put two boxes next to each other. Perhaps you have noticed that the cells have a width and height. The widths and heights are units and you have to experiment a bit with them to see what looks good on the document. Let's check it out. And that is what I expected. All is needed now is the checkbox at the bottom. This consists of a cell with a border with an X in it. Let me show you. When the allow contact variable has value yes, I print a cell with an X. Else, one that is empty. I move the cursor and print the final text. I execute the code. Very nice. Now, if there is anything you cannot do graphically with fpdf, you can always create all graphics from scratch. And to see how that works, watch one of my videos about Piglet and get full control over each pixel on the screen.